Hello, this is Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Thanks for joining us for another episode in our series about how government works. Today, we're turning our attention to state government, and I'm being joined by State Representative Jason Zachary from Farragut. So, Mr. Representative, tell us about yourself and what got you involved in politics.
Sure. Yeah, Mayor. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be with you. I'm just a small business owner, and the Lord really started working in my life about 11 years ago, called me into public service completely unexpected. And so I serve in the Tennessee State House. I serve the people of deep West Knoxville. And it's a blessing to be able to do it. I'm a lawmaker, serve in the legislative branch, and I'm in my 5th term.
What compelled you to get involved?
Sure. Yeah, it really was truly just a calling on my life. In 2011, the Lord just really began to start working on me about public service and kind of took me on this journey over a couple of years. And first time I ran for office was 2014. I kind of went in reverse order of what most people do. I ran for United States Congress, lost, was really, really tough, but the Lord had better things for me. And then the state representative in my district stepped down, he resigned. And so I ran for that seat, won. And again, I'm serving in my 5th term.
Here in Tennessee, our General Assembly is part-time. When are you all in session?
So we are part-time. We're in session from January until when we finish, which is usually the end of April, beginning of May. And so we're full-time. I'm gone 4 to 5 days a week at the Capitol serving in Nashville. That's an important distinction too. Sometimes people will ask me, well, how are things in Washington? And I'll say, well, they're a dysfunctional mess, because they are. But I don't ever go to Washington. I serve the people of my district at our state's capital in Nashville. I drive over on Monday morning, drive back on Thursday afternoon or Friday morning. And so that's January from usually about the 1st to 2nd week of May. And then from that point forward, we're part-time. I may have to go to the Capitol once or twice for some committee work, but we're part-time from May through the end of the year.
Can you take us through the process for how a bill or an idea becomes law in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah. I'll call our legal team and say, here's an idea. Can you put this in some kind of form that works within Tennessee Code Annotated, our law? And so they'll give us back a draft. We kind of work through that and refine that. We'll get outside people to look at it. I've even had you look at legislation before. And so then we take that, we make it official. It's put in what's called a jacket. You have to have a Senate sponsor. Something that's different with us on the state level versus the federal level is our bills work through both chambers at the same time. So the state Senate and the state House will move the bill at the same time, unlike Congress, where the House passes it, flips it to the Senate, or vice versa. We work the bill the exact same time. And so you take that, it goes through, you run it through committee. In the House, we have subcommittees, full committees. If it passes those, as long as it doesn't have a fiscal note, which is a cost to the state, then it would go directly to the House floor. And the body votes, 99 members in the House, 33 in the Senate, and then it's the same process in the Senate. So if it passes both chambers, it then goes to what's called an engrossing clerk, then it goes to the governor, and the governor signs it, and it becomes law.
When you mentioned that you had an idea and you have a piece of legislation, then you talk to the legal people, but everything that you do still has to conform, as you said, either to Tennessee Code Annotated and the Tennessee State Constitution.
That's exactly right. Yep. Right. And that's why our legal teams are so important. We have an entire floor of attorneys that we work with. And then again, in Tennessee, we actually read the legislation that we pass, and we make sure we have time to do that, because I could never vote on something that I haven't read. I mean, that's completely irresponsible and reckless. And so the legislation that we draft, some of my most comprehensive bills, even the COVID protection bill, which is one of the biggest bills I passed, spent the most time on. I want to say it was like 16 pages, and there was so much around that. We created a new section in Code TCA 14, and there was so much work that went into that, but even still, it was 14, 15, 16 pages. And so the bills are drafted in a way where you got plenty of time to read them, there's plenty of time to vet, but our legal team are so important because they provide us counsel and direction on walking through that legislation to make sure, again, it does fit within the section of code, and then also that it is constitutional, both on the state level and the federal level.
The counties are kind of an extension of the state, so we have to conform to state law as well. And many of the things that you all do at the state level, you either leave it up to the counties, or you specifically give the authority to the counties, or you specifically don't give the authority to the counties. So what are some of the things that you all work on as far as just laws that people would be familiar with?
Tennessee is one of the best run states in the country. People continue to move here in waves. And the most important thing we do is we pass a budget, a balanced budget. That's the number one priority of the legislature, is to pass a balanced budget. And then probably the issues that we are most engaged in, that are on a consistent basis, constituents provide us feedback, is education, without question, health care, health coverage, the broken health system that has come down from Washington. We still have the best healthcare system in the world, but it is still broken, and the more government engages, the worse it gets. And then also infrastructure, which is one of the big issues that we're talking about right now. Those three have been consistent since I started serving and are still a big priority now.
As I mentioned at the start of this talk, when folks think of government, they often think of Washington as just the federal government. So we see people voting in presidential elections, but then when it comes to state and local elections, not so much. What are your feelings about the importance of voting, especially for young people?
Yeah, well, Mayor, most people don't realize, and you know this, but most people don't realize how much more important local elections are to our day-to-day lives than what goes on in Washington. But if you look at your county commission, your mayor, your state representative, state senate, what goes on is so impactful and immediate into your lives, because in the legislature, we'll begin passing bills just in the next couple of weeks that will eventually become law. Some of them will go into effect right away. Some of them will go into effect July 1st, and some it'll be at the end of the year. But in the legislature, we'll look at 1,600 bills and end up passing about 600. And that is immediate impact into your life. And if you're a young person, you look at it and think, well, why are they important? Why should I be involved? Look at how well Tennessee is run. Every vote matters, every single time.
And you're exactly right. And I've traveled the country for years. And when you're here, you don't realize how different other parts of the country are. But as you said, not having a state income tax is a huge deal. We're a right to work state, which means that you don't have to be forced to join a union unless you want to be. Again, that's a huge deal, and a lot of businesses come here specifically for that reason. The longer that I've lived here, the more I love the place, and the more I realize how special we are, especially when you look around the country and compare us to some other places. And so much of that is due to the work that's done at the state level. So thank you all so very much for what you do.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mayor.